Mhm.
Sparkles.
Welcome.
Hello.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. You're here with the entire MCDM full-time design team and our art director, executive art director, Jason. Happy Draw Steel Day, everybody.
Yay.
I hope at least some of you have had a chance to check out the PDFs that dropped today. I hope you guys like that video that I worked on for a little while. It says, "Praise Saint Ajax! Hail, hail Ajax!" Those of you, there's a couple. I don't want to build it up. Thank you, Dima Jadar. Thank you for the congrats. I don't want to build it up, but there's a couple of cool, fun little like Easter eggy kind of tchotchke things in the Ajax edition. So those of you who ordered the Ajax edition, you're going to have a little bit of fun. James, let's see. I am currently in the MCDM offices, and as is, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Jason, Jordy, and Willie are all in this building right now.
Yes.
Somewhere.
And,
Somewhere.
and meanwhile, James is 3,000 miles away over in Indianapolis.
Indiana.
That's right. Yes, yeah, I am attending Gen Con. So I was there on the con floor today and I played some games and stuff. And now I am back currently in my hotel room to celebrate Draw Steel remotely with all of you. I am bummed, although normally I would be in New Jersey, so I am that much closer actually to all of you right now.
Yes, you are. You are a few. Your ping would be a little bit shorter. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It has been. Somebody was asking how. Age user, how stoked are you all today? I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with the
Pretty
results.
stoked.
I mean, I would say it was an enormous amount of work getting these books out. From the design process and the art process, I think I don't want to speak for other people. It was relatively straightforward.
See the chat. I closed it.
But then once the manuscript was ready for editing and layout, that's when things got real complicated. People being here, like I was here, but I was mostly giving moral support till midnight, 1:30 in the morning, several days over the past 6 weeks, just sitting next to Lars, and every once in a while he would say, "Hey, help me with this bug." Jeff, our general manager, would be here. I know that James was working, 12-hour days, many days. It was an enormous amount of work, and we're pretty happy with the result. Dice Society, you are a hero. Dice Society, comment in chat. One of the folks who do a podcast, Rise Heroes Rise. If you folks are looking for Draw Steel actual play, Rise Heroes Rise is a very popular Draw Steel stream. What's the latest on the VTT? Ethan says.
We're getting right into it.
Yeah, it is in progress. We've been working on it. Actually, we partnered with the people who are really working on it, which is a company called DM Hub, and there are people using it right now, but it is currently in development. Is there a reason the stream is still unlisted? Almost certainly. I don't think these things are determined by physical laws. That reason might be that somebody didn't list it. I don't know even what an unlisted stream looks like. Hive Indicator says the stuff Jennifer Kretschmer talked about with the accessibility stuff. Yeah, James, can you talk a little bit about what Jennifer did? Because there's some kind of novel innovation that.
And it's actually it's pretty simple what she did, but it's one of those things that when she proposed it, it was like, oh, why hasn't anybody thought about this before, right? And so Jen was like, some of this art is really beautiful and detailed, and I would like to be able to write long descriptions of it. But when someone's using a screen reader, you don't want a piece of art to interrupt the flow for like now you've got 5 minutes of text you need to listen to before you get back to the rules, right? Especially if it shows up maybe in the middle of character options that you're trying to decide between and stuff. And so we were talking about that, and she said, there's all these things that are commonly used in MCDM that are new to MCDM that we need to describe for people. Well, like, even the way your orcs look is different. I can't just say orcs. I want people to know how your orcs look, that they have glowing veins and they have these frills and they're sexy, right? And that sort of thing. And dwarves, and what do war dogs look like? What are they, right? Like, I want to be able to describe all this stuff. So she said, what if we created a separate document that's a visual glossary that literally says, just takes you through different entries. Here's what a war dog looks like. Here's what a dwarf typically looks like. Here's what an orc typically looks like, that kind of thing. And we link that. And then when we refer to war dogs, we can just say, there's a war dog here, right? And the war dog is doing this, and we describe the action and anything specific to that war dog, but you'll already have that frame of reference there. And then she put, essentially, with the help of Chris Hopper and Kit Catriel Page, who were also working with her, and then a woman named Marilee Talkington, who's done a lot of work in this field. They were like, a lot of museums do a short alt text description for art and then a longer alt text description for art, so that you can skip by it. If you're like, I really want the detailed description, I'm going to skip to that, or I don't, the short one, and go from there, right? So we did that as well. So yeah, Jen put a lot of time and effort and thought into it. It was pretty incredible, and it was cool to see, because she was one of the first people to write a post about it being out and being up and that sort of thing. And so many people glommed on to what she had done and got to see her work, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. There's a user in chat saying, "Sexy orcs is alpacnologia." I know how to pronounce that person's name. I just didn't do it this time. Sexy orcs may be the strongest MCDM thing of all, including all the really cool design. Jason, am I right? Is it tricky? Do we have a hard time getting artists to draw our orcs?
Yeah. What's funny is I never actually thought of them as sexy, but like, at least that wasn't the goal. Yeah.
We put hot orcs.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if it's because we call them orcs, so there's kind of this preconceived notion of what orcs look like. So you're kind of fighting against that as an artist, right? There's certainly plenty of other orcs out there that I enjoy drawing or looking at, different styles. But yeah, Grace actually did a lot of work to try to help our contract artists kind of glean what our orcs look like. She did 3D sculpts of a male head and a female head for orcs, and we have lots of conceptual art and what we call like an art guide, a visual guide, multi-page color PDF that kind of breaks down how we approach orcs internally. So, but people are starting to get it. Artists are starting to get it and have fun with it. So,
yeah, hopefully there's hopefully the more art there is, the easier it is for artists. I'm sort of curious to ask the other designers if we have the same, if we've experienced any of the same problems working with people, because most of the freelance community is sourced from D20 Fantasy, right? And if we end up having to be like, no, not hit points, no, does that happen?
There's definitely an onboarding curve, I think, sometimes, particularly when it comes to montages and negotiations, right? Like, hey, teaching people about that as we're getting into things like adventure design, like, okay, you can't have a montage end without progressing the story. Even if they fail, the story still needs to push forward. They just need to suffer a consequence for it, right? All the stuff that we tell GMs is stuff that we also have to teach many of our designers. But a fair number of our designers, while they probably cut their teeth in D20, have now at this point worked on other games. We have a lot of people overlapping. It was funny, walking around here. There's a lot of people in the freelance pool who overlapped with both Daggerheart and the Cosmere RPG, which both came out this year, right? And Cosmere is a D20 fantasy thing, and Daggerheart is very much not. So I think what's cool, one of the cool phenomenons happening right now, is that people are learning to design outside of D20, which is great.
Yeah, I agree. If the audience of players was as game diverse as the audience of freelancers, I think the industry would be a lot healthier. Did Chris Claremont work on this game? No. it at least inspired me quite a lot. Somebody asked, Daniel Diaz asked, I feel that most RPGs just focus on landing on a vibe. I think that's true of at least one that I can think of. Whereas Draw Steel has a proper gameplay loop. Do you think that has to do with your experience in the video game industry?
Ooh.
I don't think so. I mean, I worked on, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the design team, but I worked on a lot before I was in video games. I worked on card games and war games and I worked on a bunch of stuff, and having a core gameplay loop is not unique to video.
Yeah.
I would say that notion of all you have to do is nail the vibe and you can kind of ignore literally everything, including like your game mechanics. I think that might be unique to one edition of one game.
Yeah, Jordy, I know, talks like when Jordy came in, one of the things that he talks about and still talks about is the engine, right? When we talk about
Yeah.
class design. Yeah.
Yeah, and the engine is like, am I performing actions that feel fun, that feel like I'm sort of doing something creative, but also synergize with the fantasy, right? So like, to me, good game design, both for video and board and tabletop RPG, is the synergy between the vibe and the mechanic, right? Because if the mechanic you're performing at the table feels like the fantasy, then you got something, right? And that's not easy. Like you have to kind of go through and do it, both for video game and our industry.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that once you start thinking in these terms, you sort of, you can't go back. You're like, well, now I know this. Gameplay loops and core engines. These are the critical experiences of the players, and you have to be. We were constantly thinking about both the player and the director, and trying to make sure that they're having fun. And one of the things that people on this team, are not necessarily me, but people on this team are really good at is identifying those feels bad moments, right? Where you're like, this seemed super cool on paper. But now that I'm actually playing it, this actually kind of sucks. This feels bad, and you would be you watching this live stream would be astonished, I think, how often those feels bad moments just make it into published RPGs, and you're like, why is it okay that you'd made the players miserable?
That's the thought that counts, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe. Yeah, Geronimus says, I miss the dwarven beards, although that's just a niggle. Like, Jason, how did we get to dwarves with like crystalline?
Well, they can still have beards. They're just crystal.
Yeah, exactly.
Crystal beards.
Yeah. My dwarf has crystal beard.
Yeah,
It's magnificent.
Because those you watching, if you just hang around, I think you're gonna get to watch Jason playing Draw Steel with us. It was super fun. It was super cool. I almost feel like we could just sit around and just talk about playing the Delian Tomb that James ran for us. James, you did a brilliant job running that, by the way. I had no sense.
I had a lot of fun.
I'm so glad, Jason. I had no sense of what you had cut to make everything flow, and I think that is extraordinary. Also, like, Jason, you want to describe the process you used in Titancraft to get your dwarf to look like he's got gemstones?
Oh yeah, well, they didn't have any custom parts yet for what I wanted to do, but I wanted a beard and crystals coming out of his cheeks and stuff, but they did have these little diamond pieces. They've since added stuff specifically for this. Titancraft's added components to make MCDM dwarves, but I had to place each one individually as like an add-on item, with its own little, turn them and set them. Yeah, so it was fun, but it was time consuming. I don't have my miniature here. I'd show it. What
you're using for? Well, look at that. Look at that guy.
Yeah.
Is that a Dragonborn?
That's a Dragon Knight from Titancraft.
Dragonborn. What are you talking about? By the way, we do that all the time.
Dragon Knight.
I was like walking past Lars the other week. I was walking past Lars and I was like, D&D tonight, and he gave me a look, and I'm like, yeah, Draw Steel. And I was just reminded of all the grandparents who tell their kids, go play on your Nintendo, and they're like, it's a PlayStation, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh, am I right that those were little D20s that you were using?
Oh yeah, you're right. You remind me. They were little D20s. They had D20s to put on the base as a little extra detail, and I was sticking D20s in there. Yeah.
He would embed.
Yeah, he had a row of D20s that scaled down along his cheekbone.
I love that. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
It did look like what it was supposed to look like. It looked like crystalline growths on his face. And then when you're like, yeah, they're D20s that I just embedded.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody asked if MCDM orcs have Scottish accents. I mean, if they're from Scotland, they do. But
our gnolls do, though.
Oh, do they? I noticed that they have like tartan. Our gnolls have tartan pants for some reason. If you're apparently demonic hyenas, they have. No, MCDM dwarves sound like Klingons. And in fact, I was so proud. Let me pat myself on the back. I was so proud because I wrote, if you read the dwarf ancestry, there's some fiction in there. And Jason was like, "Hey, good job. You wrote him the way I drew him." I was very I mean, yeah, Clement Bouchert says, "I always thought people use D&D and TTRPG interchangeably a little too much." Yeah, that's like that like, you know, if I say hand me a Kleenex and somebody gets snooty and says, "No, it's not a Kleenex, it's a Vaughn's brand," I'm like, "Oh, whatever." Anyway, I'm looking at chat, looking for cool questions.
Finally, someone speaking truth to power to the Kleenex brand. What we've all been waiting for.
Kelmus, hello, Kelmus. Can you tell us where the inspiration came from the new ancestries, like the Polder? I don't think Polder are new per se. I think they're just hobbits with a better name.
Yep.
The Memenek and the Hakan. Hakan are our version of half giants. So I mean, that's a lot of these things. Of those three, I would think that I would say that Memenek are the only like original one. And and Memenek were something I came up with for some fiction that I wrote that you can read in the Illrigger product that we made for 5th edition. And I liked the idea that this was a party of heroes from different worlds, right? And I already knew that there was the plane of uttermost law was called Axiom, right? And Primordius is the sea of uttermost change, the plane of chaos, and so I needed people that came from there. And I was like, well, I think the people from Primordius are the Proteans, meaning they're shape changers, but not in a cool way, in like a gross mutant way. And I was like, well, who are the? And I spent a little bit of time trying to come up with a name that sounded techie, but also like it could be the name of a people, and that's where Memenek came from. And I knew the name before I knew anything about what they looked like. And Grace sort of hit it. We should do an art book. We should definitely do an MCDM art book and take all of the explorations and stick it in there. And I think it would be a lot of fun. And I don't know that it would be a lot of work per se, because a lot of the text that you would normally have to write for an art book, we already wrote. It's in the Patreon.
True.
Right? Just grab all those dev diaries and stuff.
We just have to not do what typically happens in video game development art books, which is, oh, we're going to make an art book, so let's go finish all the art. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
All the concept art, all the artists stop and they spend a whole bunch of time making art for the art book.
You got a game to work on, bro. You can't just.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a piece that Grace did when we were exploring what the Memenek should look like, which are just paper dolls, is what they are. They're not posed. They're not wearing clothes. It's just a bunch of different options for Memenek. And I don't think Grace did this on purpose, ? Because she's not an old person from the 1970s. But I instantly fell in love because they looked like Micronauts to me. And that's exactly kind of what I wanted. They looked plastic, right? They looked like they're like clear colored plastic with brass filigree and stuff like that. And I was like,
everybody in chat goes and looks up Micronauts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, for good and for ill. Yeah. People are very excited. Congrats on the launch. Says,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. People in, we have two chats running. We have the MCDM chat. We have the main Matt Colville chat. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, people are comparing the Memenek.
Would I agree?
How many Elric and Liberty references did you jam into Draw Steel? I don't know that there are a lot of Elric references, actually. There's a lot of references in this game. James, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know that the art team gets the opportunity to really put like cool, fun Easter eggs in. Easy for them as it is for us in text. But James, is there any? I want to see what James, Jordy, and Willie think. Are there any Easter egg or like cultural references that you put in the game on purpose?
There is one that I think I'm about to reveal and maybe get in trouble for.
Oh my God, you mother! I'm already angry because I know what you're gonna say. Oh, okay, go ahead.
There's so when we were doing inciting incidents for careers, where you talk about why did you become a hero, there's an inciting incident where a priest who you stole from, right? You're a criminal. You stole from this priest, and they, instead of turning you into the authorities, lie and say, no, 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 I gave you these treasures to take, and then the priest sort of is like, see how kindness can help and develop and change a person. And that is a reference to a very popular Broadway musical and Victor Hugo novel
Yes.
that is not The Phantom of the Opera.
I choose to interpret that as a reference to the novel by Victor Hugo.
Yeah, the novel by Victor. Well, that is what happens. So, yeah.
In fact, that is from the novel, not the awful musical. Actually, Les Mis has 2 good songs in it.
You're gonna give them 2?
And they play them over and over and over again. And that's Les Mis.
God, I could do both sides of the Javert Valjean, but I choose not to. So that's one. Are there any others, James?
I'm sure there are others that I've worked in here, but a lot of it at this point, when I see references, I no longer remember which ones specifically were
no, I get
mine.
that too.
Yeah.
I have a question. What is Tree of Might a reference to?
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. So this is why it's cool. This is why it's cool to have Willie on the team. I mean, I'm not joking. Like Willie, his our the Venn diagram of influences at the company is not as narrow as it might otherwise. It's pretty narrow, but it's not as narrow as it might otherwise seem. There's a whole bunch of references in there from Willie that I just think they're cool. I don't know what they're a reference to, and that's why it works, because I look at them like, that looks cool to me.
As long as it's obscure enough, you'll never find them.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, that was the rule, by the way. The rule for references was, there were 2 rules. 1, no Les Mis references. And I'm not joking. It was a real rule. But the second, it was a rule, not anymore. But
that was written before that rule was enacted, and then I just forgot that it was in there until I saw it in the Reddit thread yesterday.
I think it was sort of Willie. It may have been obvious, but my memory is it was sort of Willie's who made sure. And actually surveyed people. He made sure that like a ton of classic origin stories are in the complications.
During the first pass.
Yeah, a lot of those made it in because they were given to authors as examples. So yeah.
And that's I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a great the idea, like, what's the point of trying to come up with 100 unique origin stories that literally no one's ever heard of? A lot of these origin stories get reused anyway, I don't think, does anybody get bitten by a radioactive animal in our I don't think so.
Did we miss that one?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Jordy, were there any references that you threw in the game that you're happy with?
I think the most obvious one, which was the perfect Fury name, is your entrails or your extrails, right? Which is a reference to Wat from The Knight's Tale. Like, awesome movie that's really like underknown, right? Unknown.
Actually, I would say A Knight's Tale, it has an influence on this game in the sense of when I write fantasy, I write them as though they're speaking modern English, because if you lived in the 12th century, you thought you were speaking modern English. You thought you're like, what do you like? You thought you were speaking in the vernacular, and so why screw around? But yeah, I did not know. I've seen A Knight's Tale. I really liked it. I did not recognize that reference, and so the fact that it worked on me. And it still it was still fun and cool and clever. That was the rule, by the way. The rule was you can reference stuff as long as it's A, not Les Mis, and B, the reference is still cool and makes sense, even if the people don't get the reference.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept trying to sneak in one turn more, for things gave an extra action, but Matt was like, fuck, no.
Every time.
That's not, by the way, that's not a joke. They did. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, there was I'm pretty sure the Troubadour in Willie's initial draft had a couple of different Les Mis references, and that's where the rule was made.
Jordy stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, those of you watching this stream either now live or back, if you're if you're draw steel curious or you're on the fence about it, go find somebody who's got the PDF and just look at what the Troubadour can do. Just look at what the Auteur Troubadour can do. To me, it is the most original class in tabletop role playing. I have not played every game, so I'm not an expert. I don't know everything, but the Troubadour's fourth wall breaking abilities are not just to me, delightful in the presentation and the theming of all of it, but also really unique and powerful. And yeah, I think it Willie knocked it out of the park. The work you folks did on the classes is A plus. Um, uh, so yeah, your entrails are your extrails. Were there any others that stuck out, Jordy?
A few of them got sort of, I think, minimized over time, so they sort of became part of the background radiation of stuff there. I mean, there's classic Conan references. See your enemies driven before you. There were.
Yeah, but that's okay because I defend that as a quote from Genghis Khan, which it is, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. We had reference to the tactician to like more Roman tactics, but I think we had to sort of make him a little bit more conventional. Because we had like double envelopment. That we had to sort of change to something else, which is only history reference that you and I caught, Matt.
Yeah, that's yeah. I once I remember being at Turtle Rock, our last big game that Jason and I worked on, and I said to Jason that I didn't think I could get away with naming a mission the Maginot Line because it was too obvious. And Jason's like, Matt, you and I are the only people in this building that know what that's a reference. And I was like, shut up. And so I went and did a little survey, and he was wrong. There was one other person, our friend Sean, in a tank commander.
He was a tank commander. Yeah,
he knew exactly what. But actually, Jordy makes a good point. There were a lot of that's one of the really, I don't want to say grueling because it wasn't particularly difficult. It just lasted a long time and took a lot of work. The process of coming up with an idea for an ability, a character ability, and coming up with a cool theme and a name for it, and then trying to translate that idea into mechanics, right? And so you've got this really cool idea for a character ability in Draw Steel, and then you try to figure out how to make it work mechanically. And over time, you're polishing this idea, and you're making it clearer and making it more obvious what it's supposed to work. And then eventually, there ends up being no connection between what the ability is doing and your original name and theming for it. And that's where a lot of that kind of polish comes from, I think. Wait, did Willie also do the orcs for Flea Mortals?
I did.
Yes, he did. Willie's a pro and been a pro for a long time. Willie, are there I think there's a lot of references that you stuck in these books. Are there any you're proud of? Are there any that you can't wait for people to see?
It's hard to say. A lot of the references that I put into the book kind of got like massaged in the text and like kind of like getting more professional, as it were. But you'll see a lot of sort of more, I guess, actions that are references, as it were. For instance, the Bugbear Roughneck has an ability called Drag Through Hell, where they take the person that they have grabbed and they just drag them across the ground as they just start running in a line. And that is a reference to Ridley dragging Samus's face across the ground in Super Metroid.
Oh, no.
And then a lot of the werewolf kit is also inspired by a boss from Mega Man X4, the Slash Beast. So that's why he's jumping all over the place and causing problems. So
I have a question.
Inspirations
for Willie, which is like so those like one of the things that I didn't do this on the monster book because I didn't really feel it was my place to do it, but on the heroes book I did a pass on all of the ability names for all of the classes. And the one place that I kept my hands off of, and I'm like, nope, I'm not touching any of these, were the names of the routines, the songs that you can play as a troubadour. And I believe Willie came up with all of them. Willie, are any of them references to real songs?
Yes. There's one that was not actually like a reference in the flavor text, but it's a reference in the name itself, which was, it was basically a reference to Moonlight Sonata and how people describe that. That's a very late game routine in the game. But then there's also a reference to the Proto Man with Fire Up the Night.
Man and Proto Man.
Mm-hmm.
The Proto Man have an amazing, amazing album of covers. And I think it's called The Cover Up.
Yeah.
If you don't know about the Proto Men and you're a person of a certain age, if you either remember or have fond associations with 80s music, 80s pop rock, check out the cover up from the Proto Man. It's completely brilliant.
But I haven't been on the hero book for a while. I've been mostly in Monsterland, so I have to go back through the rest of the songs.
Is there Keeping Vigil says, is there a conversion chart for if you played D&D Wizard, Ranger, etc., play this Draw Steel class?
Ooh.
James, what do you think about that?
You can get very, very rough equivalents, right? And that's one of the things when we were talking about confusing terms here, right? But sometimes we say paladin instead of censor or barbarian instead of fury. And some of those analogs are a little closer than others, right? But they're not gonna play the same because draw steel doesn't play the same, right?
Yeah.
And so playing the experience of playing an elementalist is very different than the experience of playing a wizard, because the experience of playing draw steel is very different than from the experience of playing D&D by design, right? And so we that definitely could be a guide, and I don't think it's actually needed. I think if you read a one sentence description of each class, you would say, oh, okay, this is this version of that in this game, right?
Mhm.
But I also think that, like, if you expect the Fury to do everything that the Barbarian does, you're
Yeah.
probably going to be disappointed, because often it's like, well, those things we don't worry about in Charles Steel, or it can do things that a Barbarian at first level that a Barbarian can't do until their 10th or 11th, right? And it's not, that a big piece of feedback we saw from folks when the game first came out was like, it's ridiculous that the shadow can just teleport all the time. That's a second level spell in D&D. And it was like, well, yeah, but this isn't D&D. So the shadow can teleport all the time, but so can some monsters. So now is it fair? And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess it is, right? You know.
I think that yeah, just the advice we give everybody, and it seems to be it seems to be working pretty well, is if you're coming from any edition of D20 Fantasy, just put the book in front of your players, or just flip through the classes, and if the presentation, if the art, I saw somebody, I couldn't believe this. I saw somebody say online that they didn't really get the censor until they read the quote, and I was like, really? Okay, cool, right? But that if the presentation looks cool to you, and you imagine, this was a big goal of ours, by the way. We talked about this a lot internally early on. When you hear about the censor or the Fury, and you see their art, and you read that quote, it should be evocative, and you should imagine, oh, I bet they do stuff like this, that, and the other thing. And our goal was to make sure that they did those things, right? So if you're trying to map things from D20 Fantasy, it could be a little frustrating. And part of it is just because me personally, I think a lot of those D20 Fantasy classes do not deliver in gameplay terms on the fantasy of playing that class. And that was a big goal of ours, was to make it so that like you're actually having fun doing this class's core fantasy stuff at first level. Presentation is part of design.
Yes.
Thank God we have Jason. Otherwise,
What did I do?
You're responsible. You're the art director. Are there any new art nonsense coming down the pike that you're excited about?
New art nonsense. Well, what am I allowed? I'm talking about it.
What do you mean allowed? What do you mean allowed?
What are you
I don't know.
excited
I
to
don't
talk
know.
about?
No.
Cops aren't going to come break down the door. You're in the building, Jason. You're in. You've already worked here. You've got the job. You're hired. Talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, it's all nonsense. No, I love it. Well, we're working on Ancestry's book. That's a lot of fun. So, I currently have a challenge on my plate that I'm going back and forth with Matt mostly, and that is what we are calling Dragonfly Men, not official name, right?
It's not an official name.
Not official name, but you can get an idea what we're going for. So, I'm having fun with that. I don't have anything to show you right now, but
that sucks.
yeah, I know. Well, I'm sitting here on the stream, so how would I do that?
You could be drawing while you're on stream.
I don't know.
I can pantomime what they look like.
You're not even on. You're not on your computer. You're not even on the same operating system. But yeah, that's the.
Yeah. Well, no, we got. I mean, Grace is working on all kinds of cool designs for more iconic heroes for new classes.
I posted a little excerpt of some
new subclasses of those classes. What?
I posted an excerpt of what might be fiction for the Beast Heart and the Summoner. A little funny excerpt of something that I started working on.
Oh, did you share the art?
Yes, I did. I shared the art.
There you go.
I shared the art on BackerKit. If you're a backer, if you're a backer of Draw Steel, in the "Okay, folks, the game is real" post that came out this morning at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. Cold Dushin, you're gonna love this, or Dushin, you're gonna love this, Jason. Dragonfly Man, is Basilisk Soldier taken?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely one of our favorite characters from a game we worked on.
Yes.
While well, and so some of the same inspirations that developed that character are going into this new ancestry.
Well, yeah, my friend Tom Schmuck, who many of you know because he was in the Chain of Acheron. We're talking about going back to the chain, and we're talking about the heist. And he was like, "So, do you guys have like a Thry-Kreen? Does Draw Steel have like a Thry-Kreen class?" I'm like, "Well, our ancestry," and I was like, "Not exactly, but we've got this." And I showed him, and we didn't have final art. And I was like, "Jason, do you have any art?" And he's on vacation, and so I just showed him a picture of Slim. I was like, "This guy, but with wings." And actually, it's Chessex Bemi, if that is indeed your name. And so, I mean, I don't really think of our dragonfly folk as being our version of Thry-Kreen. There may yet be some like mantis people in the timescape. Absolutely, timescape contains myriad worlds. We were hugely inspired by Slim from Evolve, but also I think we'll see if we stick the landing on this. But when we were talking about what Dragonfly people were about, I think it was Jason. It could have been, it was somebody in this call, but I don't know who it was. Was like they should be like, they're like fighter pilots.
Yeah.
Right. They're like being, and they're not just like
Apache helicopters.
Yeah, being a Dragonfly person is like being an attack helicopter or a strike fighter, right? So they're an air superiority ancestry. Like our fairies, I think James will correct me. There's a limit. We were just talking about this in the interview the other day, James. That there's a limit, I think, to how high fairies can fly, right? Because that's not, being a fairy isn't about flying to the moon, but it is about flying. But there's no limit on how Dragonfly folk can go or do or be.
What was I did something to their fairy wings.
Yeah, it's that they on a given turn they can fly up, but then they have to come back down, right? Like they
have to end their turn. They can go up higher, but they have to end their turn a certain number of squares from the ground. And you know what?
From the ground.
And when that book comes out, there might be a title, which is "No, I don't. I'm a fairy."
No, I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, I can fly wherever I want. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Tell me what to do.
Rocketbird is like, I'm looking up Slim for the first. Yeah, if you want to know what Dragonfly folk are not really going to look like Slim.
No, we
Jason,
have.
Even if I wanted that, Jason would be like, no, this is gonna be a new thing. Go away. And I that's why I love working with Jason, because he's like, no, I got an idea. And so we did a lot of exploration on the visuals for the Dragonfly folk. I'm actually, by the way, this is another thing. Jason and I worked really hard. I mean, it wasn't really work. Jason did all the work. He would just ask me, and I would be like, "What's this?" On Raiden Whites, on our rat folk. I'm really happy with where they landed. And that was another thing where I saw people looking at the monster book for the first time finished, and they're like, oh, now I love these mouse men. And now that I've got art for them, now I get it. And you're like, yep, that's the power of the art, man. That is the power of the art. This is a great question for Jason, actually. Any marathon references? That's not a Jason question. I don't think
the video game.
Yeah, there might be some like Charlemagne references in there somewhere, which might end up obliquely being a marathon reference, but I don't think so. The Fey Aviator, the Faviator. Austin Watson get the gold star. The page layouts, I'm so happy somebody asked about this, the Wicked DM. The page layouts, meaning the layout, the graphic design layout. The trade dress is I think the technical term for it. For the Draw Steel books are a lot more simplistic compared to Flea Mortals. What went into this decision, Jason?
Well,
actually, James was also hugely involved.
A lot of people were hugely involved, actually, including outside artists. Jeff, who's not here, right? I went through a lot of exploration. I think you can go back and look at our original crowdfunder that had some nonsense page spreads that I'd made, that were pretty noisy and trying to draw inspirations from other products in the TTRPG, marketplace. And ultimately we wanted something that was just a little cleaner, a little, let the rules, let the art shine, right? But we wanted it to look, we still wanted to look expensive, thoughtful. Sometimes it's really hard to do less. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a lot of work.
It is. I would say,
and we go through
order of magnitude more work. Magnitude 10 to 100 is how much more work it was getting this layout to look the way it does, and meaning all the monster stat blocks where they belong, all the headers properly aligned and everything, than any other product I've ever worked on. Because there's nowhere to hide, which My personal conviction is that one of the reasons RPG books all tend to look a certain way, and they have ever since the desktop publishing revolution. Like there was a time when RPG books were courier, right? And
That's
then
right.
then you get desktop publishing and no more. One of the reasons is all of that filigree helps gives you a lot of options when you need to hide things like, well, we need this art to go here, but the what the artist drew does not fit in that space. That's fine. We'll just put a crazy like ripped paper border around it and move it around, and it hides all that stuff. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted the art. We wanted the art to shine. We wanted the art and text and game design to have like pride of place. And actually, I want to tell the story, which was Jason and I wasn't the only, we weren't the only people here doing this. We're looking at RPG books, right? And there's a lot, like all RPG books sort of look the same. They all try to create the illusion that this is a actual product from inside the game world, right? So there's parchment backgrounds and stuff like that, and all these cool filigree border elements. And we did the same thing. And Jason's looking through. He really liked Starfinder. It was my memory. He's looking through all these RPG books, and then he gets to 4th edition, and he goes, "Oh, look, they figured it out." He's like, "Great, oh, awesome, yeah, look." And then he gets to 5th edition. He's like, "Wait, what? This is newer than this?" And I was like,
Well,
"Yep."
Yeah, I mean, I had seen 5th edition already, but yeah, you're right though.
That was one of the things people didn't like about 4th edition was that it looked like a rule book, and people.
Yeah.
But to me, this has to do with. Well, all right, go ahead, Jason.
I don't forget that. I mean, part of it was too that we wanted to fill this book with the design, the rules that we felt were necessary to make Draw Steel a successful and fun game to play, right? And that meant limiting the space for art and all these extra doodads, right?
The doodads.
You know, and in our previous products, they went along for a rule set that already existed, you know, so we had space to play with. This we had to fit a lot in. You get a lot in Draw Steel, you know. It's exciting.
Yeah, and we don't use natural language. We're not trying to trick you into thinking that you're like I said, like you're reading a product from inside the game world. We use like iconography to communicate what this is the target, right? What is the range of this? What kind of ability is this? And I think it's gorgeous. The older I get, and having looked at, maybe it's more to the point, having looked at our layout now so much, and I love it. And looking at other games layout, to me, this is very personal. I'm not speaking for anybody else in this call. Classic kind of 1990s RPG layout starts to look kitsch to me, right? It starts to look naive. Right, it doesn't have taste, right? And I'm really happy with where we landed on everything looks, on the way everything looks in our game. Somebody asked, where did you guys find the inspiration for your character designs, facial features, etc.? Do you model anything in the art after yourselves?
Oh, in the character faces? No, not usually. I like lots of different people faces. I don't know. Sometimes you're inspired by an actor or something, but I have a lot of fun maybe starting there and altering it so it no longer looks like them. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it's just you look at a lot of reference and you pull the brow line from this person and the nose from this person and so on. Grace has her own methodologies, so a lot of times I do stuff in 3D, and it's pushing and pulling until you get a face you like. So, yeah. No, except for that one character that looks just like Matt.
I don't think we do any kind of we don't ever intentionally model. I remember when the Chain of Acheron started, which was our D&D live stream like 5-6 years ago. There were many people who would do fan art of the characters and make them look like the players. And that was always super weird to me. And by the way, the other people in the stream, they were like, my character doesn't look like me. What is this person doing? Right. And so, yeah, we don't, as far as I know, we don't try to reference real people in our art. How did the orc visual design come about? Says Eric. They look great.
Well, that was a process during Flea Mortals, right? Yep. So, and it was a really fun one. a lot of back and forth with everybody. At first a decision to make them different and unique than most orcs that we see, and part of the inspiration also was to make sure they weren't these kind of like savage. I'm a big fan of Warhammer orcs, so
orc with a
K. And if you've played any of the video games or listened to audiobooks, like how they sort of talk with this sort of Cockney accent, or like rugby boys, and but we didn't want that. We wanted something else, and so our go-to, actually, we're like, what's really cool, something we really like that's an alien race that still has this sort of martial background, and unique culture, and it was Klingons, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
So
it was Klingons, a lot of Klingons, but also a little bit of the Jem'Hadar, I think.
Yeah,
a lot of Star Trek alien.
Yeah. And so we sort of started there, and we knew we didn't want them to have big underbites and big teeth sticking out and things like that. So
or tusks. They don't have tusks. I'm pretty happy with where we landed on that. Sam Kit says, this is a question I think maybe that Willie can answer because it includes terminology that I am unfamiliar with. Kit Sam Kisk asks, does draw steel work for shonen fantasy?
Absolutely. That idea of like,
absolutely.
That you're growing stronger and you're doing kind of ridiculous stunts every other turn, that is totally within the purview of a shonen anime, as it were. So
yeah, just look at some of the art through the classes, and I think you'll get it too. Especially some coming to mind, like in the Null and the Talent.
Yes, those two definitely. In particular.
Yeah.
I want to know. Daniel Diaz says, Matt, where did Sir John come from? And that was a dude that I invented because of Jason's art. Jason drew Jason. That is Sir John's, that piece, which is one of the pieces that we developed for the original crowdfunder, and he became the iconic tactician. That was Jason, and I'm like, yeah, I love that guy. He's great.
Yeah,
I feel like I know him already.
Yeah, I drew a bunch of sketches, and actually that was one character that I did kind of start off basing on an actor that I'm a big fan of. I just love seeing him on screen, and that's Idris Elba.
Oh, Idris Elba.
Yeah. Sorry if I said his name wrong, but I'm bad at that. I believe what happens, I kind of made him look a little more like him, and we had a conversation about wanting to make him look a little younger, and I sort of redrew and changed his face and his personality a little bit, and Sir John went through a couple iterations, but he's one of my favorite characters I've drawn. So.
Oh, really? That makes me really happy. I love writing him.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to write is the person who's just a normal person who is basically good, right? And is not complicated and inspires other people with just how straightforward his sort of morality is. Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun to write that character. By the way, I'm if anybody in this call, other devs, see any questions that you want to answer, please speak up.
Mm-hmm.
Nightish is like, are there any parts of D20 Fantasy you intentionally retained? I would say actually quite a lot, but they're not obvious because people take them for granted. People often are like, well, what's the biggest? What game is the biggest influence on Draw Steel? Go ahead, you can say it. You can say it's 4th edition, and it's like, well, it's D&D. What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a class and level-based game. It's a fantasy class and level-based game, right? So there's a bunch of stuff like you roll dice to resolve tasks. Didn't have to be that way. I mean, oh my God, for about, what was it, James? Was it 20 minutes? Was it 3 minutes? I seriously, I realized it was ridiculous while I was doing it, but I was seriously saying, what if you used a spinner to resolve?
Oh yeah.
Right? And that's just from how fun it's. Dice are fun to roll, spinners are fun to spin. You don't believe me? Go play Nuclear War. It's the best part of that game is spinning the spinner and everybody watching to see where it lands. But so
the best part of life, that spinner. Oh, it's so good.
We can still bring back the spinner.
Yeah, there's we have a class that requires a spinner.
Yeah, it's a good thing that it was just me at the time and not Willie and Jordy were not here yet when that debate happened, because this game could very well have a spinner if they had been.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff that is that we could have thrown out. I mean, I have played as I think most of the people in this call have. I have played skill-based RPGs. I have played all sorts of games that are not class based. But we were like, nope, that's a proven winner. Lots of games that aren't D&D use classes and levels and ancestries. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that.
And we talked about at the very beginning of the process, why we would keep those things, right? And not just like we considered everything else. There were certain things where we were like, okay, we need to strip this down and start from the beginning. But those were things that we were like, well, we really like these things, and we think they're going to fit this game well. So we should just keep those and make them our own, right? And that's how we came to that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's people think that Jordy's the null behind Jordy and the art on the frame is the idealized version of Jordy himself. Yeah, there's a
Well,
lot.
I do have. Speaking of the null, I put in. I basically, and now it's published, so it's canonical. I put in the canonical best way to win the game and defeat Ajax, which the null has a high level ability called Realitas, where you punch someone and they start to degrade from reality, and if you let it finish out, they're erased from everyone's memory forever.
Period.
Which I felt like is the best way to defeat Ajax, is just to erase him, so he is
Just erase them from the time stream.
Yeah. That's hard mode, is you have to get a null up to sort of defeat Ajax to win the game.
Oh, somebody asked. He does actually sort of, Mr. Fizzer. Somebody asked. Oh, now Mr. Fizzer distracted me, and now I forgot what the question was. Oh, well, if Ajax has a class, and what is it? And I feel like there is actually an answer, even though the answer is no. But the answer is yes, but it's not.
It's tactician.
Well, which is it?
Yeah, he's a tactician.
Yeah. The challenge with Ajax was figuring out, well, how can you be a solo tactician? What does that look like? And
Yes, it was. Oh my God, that was a big. Actually,
Yeah.
the thing that let us off the hook was our sort of meta awareness of the fact that this does not have to be Ajax's only stat block.
Exactly.
There could be a future where he's in an adventure, and then, but we intended him to be a solo monster, and that was Willie knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. What I like about Ajax, this version of him, is he's like evil Batman, right?
Yep.
Like when Batman takes on the Justice League, that's Ajax fighting the heroes.
Yeah, is that it, like if you're watching this and you're just an MCDM or Matt Colville community member and you don't know a whole lot about Draw Steel, Ajax, who's one of our world-ending bad guys, Ajax has abilities that are direct counters to the things players can do and reference those things as though Ajax has played Draw Steel, right? But he lives in the world of Draw Steel. He knows what people in the world can do. So the Shadow, which is sort of our version of a rogue, what if the rogue was cool and fun to play? The rogue has an ability, the Shadow has an ability called...
Depending on like if he's seen you in battle before.
Yep.
So he's just always prepared for what the players have shown him up until that point. So
so this is a question from Joe Meehan. This was a couple of seconds ago. Which of the announced upcoming projects, and by the way, as far as I know, there are no unannounced, well, maybe one. There are no unannounced upcoming projects. Which of the announced upcoming projects is each designer most excited for? Jason can also answer, although Jason would probably be answering from an art standpoint.
Well,
I know my answer.
Designers go first.
Yeah, I want to wait. I want to answer last.
okay.
James, what are you the most excited by that's upcoming? And you can be excited for it either as I can't wait to see this exist, or excited to work on it.
Yeah. So for me, right, I'm really, really digging the work that we've been doing on the Encounters book. Just from a enjoying working on it standpoint, right? Like that is fun to sink your teeth into. It's a real utilitarian thing where it's like people are going to use this, people are going to drop stuff into their games. It's going to be really fun and really exciting. From a holy crap, I don't think I think this is going to be amazing, right? I am really excited to finish up the Fall of Black Bottom right now.
Yeah.
I think the Fall of Black Bottom is going to blow people's minds as a starting adventure when they see it, right? Like the Delian Tomb is great, but the Delian Tomb is also to be expected, especially since so many people are familiar with the 5e version of the Delian Tomb, right? But the Fall of Black Bottom is something that is going to make them say, I can't believe I can do this in this game,
Yeah.
right? And we've got a couple other adventures we're talking about that I think are all going to feel like that. But that one to me is because we've been working on it for so long. I'm excited to see that one get the full treatment and see where it winds up.
Yeah, I think that I can't speak for everybody here, but I think that I sort of view the product line as having two sides to it. There's a lot of stuff we're working on, which is sort of bog standard fantasy nonsense that you would get in any fantasy RPG, but just our version of it, and we love that. It's where we came from. You know what I mean? So doing that kind of stuff, like the Delian Tomb, is classic fantasy adventure stuff. The Delian Tomb adventure could have been made in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, anytime. This is just the draw steel version of it. And then there's other stuff we're working on, which is like, when I look at it, I'm like, only in draw steel. That is a draw steel adventure. And the Fall of Black Bottom is definitely one of those. It's not really a starter adventure. It's just a first level adventure. It's it's like, once you already know how to play draw steel and you're getting ready to start a new campaign, Fall of Black Bottom is a great place to start. Jordy, what are you looking forward to?
I mean, the main thing I'm working on right now is the codex, right? It's trying to get an experience where, a VTT purpose built, right, for the game we're making, right, and a game with such force, movement, destruction. Like, I think we have something really special in our hands. In progress, again, it's the scaffolding is sort of still being built up, right? It's not ready to go, to warp speed and go fight the Klingons right now. But it's going to be a very potent starship when it's done.
Yeah, it's already pretty awesome. I was very happy to see that dude on Reddit being like, it is hard. Hey, it's Matt O'Driscoll. Being like, hey, this is already the best experience I have had with a VTT and an RPG together. And I was like, holy crap. Those guys are Jordy and DM Hub are kicking butt. Willie, what are you looking forward to project wise?
I am going to be relieved once the summoner is finally done. I feel like it's very close. There's a lot of tweaking that's involved in it, and like kind of just revising the whole set of minions that you have access to. But once that is like out in the open, and I can finally just kind of take a step back and look at it and be all like, "Oh wow, I can actually play this now." Like for realsies, not in testing it, of course. I think that's going to be a really good feeling, and I can't wait.
I can't wait for people. I can't wait to release the summoner and see the reactions from people when they first start summoning, armies of skeletons or demons and stuff like that. It's incredible. It's really, really cool. And I've never seen or played anything like it in a tabletop RPG before. My answer is, I'm going to have two answers. The thing somebody upstream said Crack the Sun, which I am looking forward to, but actually I don't know enough about Crack the Sun yet. So I can't answer. Like, we didn't even finish outlining Act 1 because we were so busy trying to get this game out. But just outlining Act 1, we started referencing some fiction, and Jordy was like, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just do this thing? And I was like, we can't do that. And everyone's like, why not? And I'm like, what? Are you kidding? And so I'm not going to tell you what it is, not because I'm trying to be coy, but just because it might not work. And so I don't want to let anybody down. But for me, I would say the two things I'm most excited about that we're working on right now are, and I hate that I love all our adventures equally, but I love some of them more equally than others. I'm really looking forward to The Condemned. The Condemned is one of those things where I feel like if people play The Condemned, they're going to be like, why are we wasting time with other games? We should all adventures should be like this. And that might be that, and it's possible that's because I was one of the original players in Jordy's 4th edition Condemned game, but I don't think that's the reason I'm excited. I think it's because of when we went and we did our kind of story breakdown, outlining what that adventure was. We on purpose made it so punchy and epic, and there were so many brilliant ideas that people in the call were coming up with. And I'm like, yeah, let's throw that in. Like, yeah, and it's just his head. It's his head in the jar, right? And then later on, he comes back and he's got a robot body, and you're like, are you kidding me? Right? And I was like, oh, this is gonna be so good. This is going to be so epic. So I think the
spoilers.
No one's gonna. They're not gonna know. And I also, the thing that I've been thinking about a lot, and I told Jason, you got to pick a date. You got to pick a date, put it on the calendar, and say this is when we're going to play test this, because otherwise we're just going to keep kicking off. And if I have that date, I will get the prototype finished, and that is Derelict. Derelict is going to be our first non-RPG related product. It is intended to be a sci-fi dungeon crawler, sort of like Gloomhaven, but sci-fi and fun. No shade on Gloomhaven, except we throw lots of shade on Gloomhaven because I don't like it. So we've been going at this for about an hour now. I actually want to, before we stop, people have been, everybody in chat, everybody watching, you guys have been awesome. First of all, those of you who've been around since the beginning of running the game, isn't this a crazy, crazy journey we have all gone on? Like, this is unbelievable to me. That we get to, yeah, right, Matt O'Driscoll. Matt loves some top bottom. Me, not so much. But this whole thing has been unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And I'm so proud of this game that we created. And I said this in the post, but like, we didn't have to really compromise our vision. We didn't have to, no one was telling us, well, our goal is to make champagne on a beer budget. Actually, our general manager, who's heard that phrase before, champagne on a beer budget, which is a real phrase a real executive producer used talking to me in a meeting in video games. Our general manager, who heard that same thing from somebody else, said, actually, our thing is sort of getting beer on a champagne budget. Because it turns out, if you have a champagne budget, you can get some really dope ass beer. And I was like, that is the thing. So it's huge for us that we get to do this. And you guys are about to watch, as soon as the stream is over, which I think we're wrapping up. You guys are going to watch us, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1, the 5 of us plus Dale Kingsmill, our friend, my YouTube neighbor, Dale Kingsmill, in person, together, sitting around the table, playing Draw Steel, the Delian Tomb, like in just a couple of minutes. Do any of you guys have any, because this now for us was, I think, months ago, right?
Yeah.
Do any of you guys have any fond memories of that experience playing and or running the Delian Tomb? Anything that stood out?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, you go.
There's a moment, I think it's at the end of this first episode that I remember very fondly that involves Matt. Getting ahead of the pack. And then realizing something because he forgot about a thing he designed in the adventure happening. which was
oh my
really,
God,
really
great. I can't believe that. Oh, I forgot about that, James. Where you're like, you notice that there's a severed hobgoblin head here on the floor, and I was like, all right, whatever. What does that have to do with, right? That was literally my attitude. And then I got hit. I'm not going to spoil it. Does that must happen in the first episode? That right?
Oh yeah, I think it's the end of the first episode. So
you guys are going to get to see that. I couldn't fucking believe that. Actually, somebody in chat just asked this, and they're right. And I'm a terrible host. Oh, Jason, what are you looking forward to that we're working on or that we're planning on doing?
Oh, it's okay. So my stuff's actually spread out because while all our products will continue to feature stuff that we develop for these first core products to Draw Steel and stuff that MCM's developed over the past, we add new ancestries and new, in some cases, new heroes, even though everybody's going to make their own hero, their own characters. Me getting to do it or the art team getting to do it together, creating ancestries and heroes is what I love. Monsters also, but these are all unique characters to me. And so even if we don't share it all, they all have their own personalities that we sort of kind of latch onto and develop, at least internally, and so there's stuff spread across all these that are these individual characters to me, these personalities that we get to develop. So
yeah, I agree. I love seeing the characters that the art team comes up with, and I get the somewhat unique joy of getting to kind of to write them and figure out who these people are. And actually, I think the Summoner and the Beast Heart, I think they're the first iconic heroes we've come up with, that we designed them on purpose to each have a related backstory. We had no idea who this dwarf was when Jason drew them, right? We didn't really know who this human was when he drew Sir John. But we had talked about in a meeting, we had talked about the idea of giving the Beast Heart and the Summoner a shared backstory. So that was really cool. And if you folks haven't seen the art, it's unbelievable.
And
So
that's a process. Like I want to exclude myself from that process because while I was there with it, I kind of got to watch in joy as Matt, the design team, and Grace kind of developed that,
yeah.
right? And so and I I'm super glad that we all get to kind of develop characters like that, right? 'Cause these are heroes that Grace has developed, right? So I have very little to do with those really cool characters.
Yeah, we do. I say this every time this comes up, or every time Jason and I are in a stream together, that one of the things, if you like MCDM art, one of the reasons it looks the way it does, apart from the artists who are working on it, like Grace's style, which is brilliant, Nick's style, which is awesome, Jason, who's one of the best character designers I've ever worked with, is that we spend a lot of time and therefore money on actual concept art, which I don't think most RPGs get, meaning we create a whole bunch of art that you folks never see. Right. And then those explorations end up arriving at a conclusion, and then that conclusion is what we send to artists, and that's why I was like, we got to do an art book. We got to do an art book.
Yeah,
what were
you
we
get
talking
to see all the
Oh.
summoners and all the beast hearts that
Yeah,
aren't going to be in the book.
all the different insect dudes.
Yeah, all the weird
insect
bug people.
all
Yeah,
different. Each one of them could be a whole ancestor. It's like a
Yeah.
moth person.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a grasshopper person that Grace did concepts for, which was really
yeah.
Jason, did you have a moment that you remember? I know it's been a while from the Delian Tomb playthrough.
I mean, there was a lot. I had a blast. So one thing I really liked was that we're just playing first level, and I've got these abilities, but I wanted my character to be a certain way, and it was fun being able to take these abilities and kind of apply a role-playing aspect, a visual, a cinematic aspect of what that looked like when my character did that. That at least to me wasn't the most straightforward, right? It could have been, oh, I actually want you to watch it. So but as I remember it, Matt would say, well, or James would say, what does that look like? And I'd come up with something, and it was, well, that was really cool that worked. That I roll these dice, that's that ability, right? But it looks like this. And then there's one other thing. Dale's character and I had kind of a connection, which I think if I recall correctly, eventually annoyed, maybe just Matt, but annoyed somebody like. Because we were role playing that connection.
Oh my God! Yes.
Right?
Sticky notes.
Instead of
the sticky notes.
Yeah, sticky notes.
So here's a spoiler, because I don't know.
That was a lot of fun, and I don't care if it wasn't for you, Matt.
No, I also loved that. I loved it.
Okay.
I also had fun. And those of you watching this live stream, either live or back, there's a point. I don't think we ever said this on stream, but there was a point. I think it was to Willie. I passed Willie a Post-it note that just said, "I do not have telepathy."
I passed it back, said me neither.
Which only makes sense to us right now. But if you can sort of put two and two together, and because I don't know how many episodes Jay or Jerry might be able to guess how many episodes the Delian Tomb is going to be. You're going to get the first episode today. The next episode is going to be next week. But I don't know how many total episodes it is. But that was pretty close to the end, I remember. Jordy, was there anything cool that stood out to you from the Delian Tomb playthrough?
It was just fun playing the game, right? And it was sort of like a yin yang for me of really fun role playing banter, right? Because we intentionally picked a spread of characters that created an interesting tension, right? It wasn't like, hey, you meet at a bar. It's like, oh, you guys are from another manifold, and you guys are like normal people from this place, and that we role play that, right? And then, as it is my way, I took advantage of the rules to be very punitive to the monsters and to make James sad at various points.
Yeah, that was so wild. It was cool to be able to see like you having built a null and also having designed the null. It was sort of like, well, let's see what the ideal null is like. So that would make perfect sense to me. And then there was this other moment too that I just wanted to bring up where it was like we did some downtime stuff, and there was a downtime complication with Dale, and was also a great moment to me because it was like, oh, we
Sick.
designed Draw Steel to be able to do stuff exactly like this, and you'll get to see that at the end of the playthrough.
Yeah,
So that was
basically, if
cool.
you've watched Dusk and you remember what happened to Dale in Dusk, she sort of did that again. No spoilers. It's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler if you haven't watched Dusk. Um, there was a point where Jordy pulled an Eryx, which is a giant, like 15-foot tall insect, through himself.
Oh yeah.
As a result, set up this crazy combo with Willie, and I was like, I could not believe that. That was a very early combat moment, and I was like, that is unbelievable. It was so cool. Um, yeah, it was really fun. Jordy, those of you who don't know, Jordy is a great role player. He's super fun. He's super fun watching him get into character. He just enthusiastically throws himself into the silly voices and acting out and stuff like that. Willie, is there a moment that you remember that stood out?
Let's see. How did it go again? Did he eat the bugs? The contract work was
Yeah.
mwah.
That actually, I
right,
thought
yeah.
that whole thing, because that was Jason got wrapped up in that. I thought that was some brilliant improvisation that was very Draw Steel-esque, right? Because it had this mechanical underpinning to it that I thought was really cool. I also, by the way, I loved the way Jason described his his dwarfs' weapons.
Yeah.
Really well done.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
That was great.
I just
The bloodbound ring was great. You,
Oh,
you and
yeah,
Jason
yeah.
the fucking bloodbound ring. Al,
Yeah.
quit it.
Yeah.
Al, quit it. We need to get, I'm sure we will. I am sure we will get a super cut of every time those, like Jason or I said to the other, you take a point of damage.
Yeah.
Take a point of
Damage.
Yeah, that was, I'm curious to know like how much damage we took. It was a lot. Those rings did a lot of damage to us. Yeah, so that was actually super fun, and it was a great example of how treasure can be exactly as much a part of Draw Steel as it is any D20 fantasy game. And yeah, and it's just your character, unlike AD&D, your character doesn't need treasure to be cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was a moment toward the end where it had to do with a jump check and me jumping down from the top of one of the towers into the courtyard and just being surrounded with enemies as a revenant sensor. And part of my brain is like, man, I hope some other heroes come down here, right? But at the same time, feeling like this is Draw Steel, Jago alone against the Horde. I thought that was awesome. It was, and I said this. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think it's the most fun I've had at the table. That was so, because it was just a great combination of playing with people I like, and the system was so much fun to play through, and the narrative and the way everything fit together, our abilities to express character through the mechanical things, the mechanical choices we were making, unparalleled. So I think that's it. Is there anything else you folks, James, Jordy, Willie, Jason, want to say or talk about? Anything you feel like
I'll say I'll say one thing. If you're curious about Draw Steel, you could pick up the Delian Tomb, which is I think the bargain of the century.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $10 for like 60
$10.
pages. What is it? How many
Yeah.
pages? Is it?
Oh,
70 pages for the adventure, like 100 pages for the encounters, and like another eight, like 70 for the. It's like over 200 pages of content.
200 pages.
And
Yeah.
a bunch of really cool art.
And a
Yeah,
whole
a
bunch of
ton of
really
cool art.
cool art. Yeah, because it was one of those things that we feel like Draw Steel. None of us know the future. None of us here at MCDM. None of you folks in chat. But we're trying. We hope it's obvious that we're trying to build Draw Steel to be a living game that people play, for years. And so we knew that something like the Delian Tomb could be an evergreen product where people are still buying it and playing it 10 years from now, maybe even longer. And so we took it really seriously. It's $10 or $9.99 or whatever, and it's got hundreds of pages of content because it's an adventure. It's the Delian Tomb surrounded by kind of a sandbox area that you can explore on your own in whatever kind of order you feel like, with a really cool dungeon, castle, goblin encounter at the end. And then all of that, which is, an entire level's worth of content, which is how many victories is that, James? Is it like
oh yeah. So it's got enough victories in it that it could take you, if you do everything, if you try to 100% the Delian Tomb as much as one can in a tabletop RPG, you would be third level actually by the end of it. So it's got like
Two levels worth of victories in it.
victories.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
all of that is wrapped in what I consider to be a quite good tutorialization, where you don't need to read anything to get started. It literally says, okay, first thing, put this map out in front of the players. Two, hand the players their character sheets, right? And then you take these goblins and put them here, right? And so you are just going to set it up and play as you go. And we actually started, I think many of you watching this probably don't know this, but the Delian Tomb takes the experience of playing a first level draw steel character and crunches it down so that in the first encounter, you're only worried about a couple of choices. And then the second encounter, we add some choices. And then by the third or fourth encounter, there you go. You know how to play your character. So we really are walking you through this step by step.
Yeah. The one thing that I just want to shout out is that like you see five of us here and we all worked very
Oh
hard
my
on it.
God, so many people.
But yeah, there's other staff members at MCDM who like Lars and our general manager who were staying up in some cases until 3 a.m.
Yep.
To get this book out to you. There's Jerry who had a late night getting stuff out and is still working right now. So
Yep.
thank you to Jerry, right? And then just a zillion freelancers on the design, the edit, the art, the consulting side, right? Like all kinds of people we talked to and brought in. So it's a monumental effort what you are
Yeah.
seeing on behalf of many, many people, right?
And,
bringing this.
Super talented folks that are great to work with. Definitely read the credits of all these products.
Yeah.
So
brilliant art. So many great artists worked with us. So many amazing designers, editors, layout folk. And the thing is, a lot of these people, if not all of them, they believed. They wanted to be part of what was happening. They wanted to make so many people, the testers worked
Yes.
so hard,
Yes.
way earlier than folks know about. We had prototypes that we were iterating on.
yeah,
And the testers they talked about how committed they were to making Draw Steel the best game it could be. And I feel like it shows. Is the Delian Tomb PDF only? Yes. It is PDF only, and it is PDF only for the foreseeable future. Is there a print version available? There are no plans for a print version. I don't think we're going to see a print version unless or until we feel like we're going to get it into like, Target or something like that. I could be wrong. That things could change. That's sort
But
of
you can get a Gen Con right now and get some dice that gives you a PDF code.
if
Oh,
you
yeah.
are at Gen Con or if you're going to Gen Con this year, go to one of the ChessX booths. I think they have 4 booths, and you can get an official set of draw steel dice. We just talked about this in the video, but some of you probably haven't seen the video. You can get an official set of draw steel dice in a little box at the ChessX booth that has a QR code that will get you the Delian Tomb for free. So you pay for the dice, you get the Delian Tomb for free. It's print and play. But if you're at Gen Con and you've got, if you're sufficiently young, you can do it probably from your phone. I would probably need a tablet or a laptop, or you could just go to Kinko's. They've got it, FedEx office. They've got it at Gen Con and print it out and run it at Gen Con. And I predict people will do that. I think it's going to be awesome. Do we need all the books?
for the Delian Tomb.
You don't need the Delian Tomb Kit. You don't need any of the book. That's one of the reasons the Delian Tomb is so big. Is you don't need you don't need the Heroes book or the Monsters book to run or play. It's got pre-generated characters, but as soon as you want to do something like make your own character, yeah, you're going to need the books. How much for the dice? I don't know.
It is $25 for the dice, but again, that includes all 200 pages of the Delian Tomb stuff.
And they are custom-made dice. They are 20-sided dice numbered 1 to 10 twice, and a 6-sided die numbered 1 to 3 twice, because those are the dice those are 90% of the dice.
Your dice.
Yeah, your dice. All right, I think that's it, folks. I think that's it. I personally want to thank everybody in this call for doing this live stream. Because I know that it's not in everybody's native environment. Are we getting a Foundry version?
He's talking to me.
I don't know. No, that's not true. I mean, only James in this call. Only James and I stream habitually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for James, but I'm not sure that he would stream if not for the fact that there's a certain a feeling of obligation on the part of the lead designer to communicate what we're doing to the people.
I enjoy it. I really do. I like talking to everybody, and I like streaming. But yeah, it's hey, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for making Draw Steel a reality. It still hasn't sunk in completely yet to me that
No,
like
it's going to be a
it's
while
here.
before it's real to us, probably.
Yeah,
Because it's been so, and it's been so, we've been working on this for so long. Actually, but I mean, I've spent a lot longer than this working on a single game. I spent 4 years
sure.
on Mercenary 2 and at least 4 years on Evolve. So getting a game out in less than 4 years is a huge blessing. All right, folks, I think that's it. Just hang out here, and you get to watch us play the first chapter of the Delian Tomb, and we had a blast. And I think you will enjoy it. Jerry took our play and edited it down, so it's much more like Dusk, I think, than it is like the Chain of Acheron, where it's shorter and punchier, and it's mostly the good bits. So that's it, folks. See you folks online. Go play Draw Steel. Draw
Goodbye
Steel.
for now.